Thanks for tuning in live here on the Our Football Network broadcast on Proline TV. I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in as we talk Detroit Lions, and we get an opportunity, of course, whenever we talk about the Lions, to chat with Jeff Risdon from the Lions Wire. Also, of course, you can check him out with the Detroit Lions podcast. Very successful, popular, and the best Lions YouTube channel. How's it going, Jeff?
It's great to be with you. Thanks for the kind words. It's nice to be back.
Hey, when it's accurate, it's accurate. It's good to have you back. And it's always nice talking about the Detroit Lions, especially since the fact that we've been doing this for several years. It's taken us from the depths of a despair and a typical Lions fan, sort of like where us Jets fans are at this point. And now just maybe one step away, hopefully, from a Super Bowl season, if everything goes well. At least that's where it looks like they're going to be for a little while. They've got the right cards. Now it's just a matter of whether or not they can put it all together. Of course, the big news this offseason, though, is the coaching staff changes. So we're going to go into that, talk about the draft, talk about the offseason in a whole. I want to start off with you, though, Jeff, with talking about some recent news. So let's talk about the schedule. Schedule just came out, and boy, there are a lot of big primetime games on tap for the Detroit Lions, and some very competitive primetime games starting actually you get the big week 1 game going to Green Bay. That's never going to be an easy start, playing at Lambeau. Let's start there. What do you think about, as a fan, what do you think about starting the season off with a rival on the road?
I don't like it. I wish the NFL would not have openers against division rivals, period.
I agree.
I think that's a great time to play a good matchup, as good of one as you can find. You know, the Lions, Pittsburgh would have been fine. Cincinnati would have been great. The Rams would have been fine. I like the idea of starting off and getting your feet wet a little bit, because the first week, it's so unpredictable as it is. And it's not an easy time to figure out what, you're sort of learning what you've got on the fly. And I think division games should be more important than that. I think that, I don't mind week 2 playing one in the division, but week 1, I don't care for that.
Yeah, I agree, because it's so important that you don't want like a tiebreaker coming down to the fact that, well, you played week 1 and you lost, and that wasn't our team. I mean, we didn't even play in a preseason. Basically, that was like our first,
Yeah, and the Lions,
game.
By the way, none of the starters will play in the preseason. That's Dan Campbell's way. So, I don't know that about LaFleur and the Packers, but I kind of think that they don't play much either. So that's, I would rather the teams get a couple of games under their belt, or at least 1 week, before you throw them into a critical division game like that. And that's true of any team. If I'm a Jets fan, I don't want to open against the Patriots. I don't want to open against the Bills.
No.
I want to open against Tampa Bay or Carolina or something,
The Steelers, like we are. Yeah. Like big surprise that they're going to match the Jets and the Steelers. Like we all don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback here in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So, but there's the line. The line has already come out. Packers are a 1.5 point favorite against the Lions, and let's hope let's hope nothing changes too much there. Meaning, let's hope there are no major injuries that changes the lines. We don't like injuries, and obviously after the season the Lions had last year, injuries is not a good word.
Please, no more injuries. I don't want that for any team. But what we went through last year, when the second half of the Commanders game, which the Lions lost in the playoffs, 9 defensive starters out. That's not your team. No. It's impossible. And by the way, Aaron Glenn knows what to do with Aaron Rodgers, so I wouldn't worry too much about that if I were a Jets.
Okay. I like to hear that. It sucked. It just did. That's just the best word to say. Because without the injuries, and I firmly believe it, without the injuries, I think the Lions are gonna win the Super Bowl last year. They were just humming. The only
there.
team that could have beat them would have been the Eagles, but I just thought Detroit was a better team, and we're never gonna know. And that's what is just that's what happens. Eagles didn't get injuries, Detroit did, and there you go. So
yeah, that's right.
Week 3, Detroit at Baltimore. So this is the first of a handful or more of big prime time games. So Monday night at Baltimore, week 3. You must be excited about going up against Lamar Jackson on the road on a Monday night.
At least Justin Tucker's gone. That's good. Astute fans might remember when he kicked a record-setting field goal against us on a Monday night many years ago.
Okay.
That ruined Once Upon a Lion season.
Nice.
Lamar Jackson, he's never easy. He's a perennial MVP candidate for good reason. But, I don't mind that one so much.
No.
It's Monday night. It's a great matchup. All eyes will be on it. The Lions can win that game.
Sure.
I think the Lions can outscore the Ravens. So I'm looking good for that one.
Week 6, Sunday Night Football at the Kansas City Chiefs. So you get both Super Bowl teams, and you get the Chiefs to start off with in that with that duo. Sunday night, week 6, also on the road.
Great matchup. By the way, the Chiefs are coming off of a Monday night game the prior week, which is something that the Lions get a benefit. They play 5 teams this year that are coming off of Monday night games, which has never happened before.
Well,
so while the schedule looks formidable, there are a couple of little concessions and tweaks that the Lions or that the league gave the Lions, and that's one of them. Playing on a Sunday night, it doesn't make that much difference in the rest, but it's a little bit.
The very next week, it's off to Monday night. So back-to-back primetime games, Monday Night Football, hosting the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Baker's been a tough one for Detroit.
Buccaneers are that's a really good football team. I don't think people outside of the NFC South realize they've been really, really good for a while now. But they have perceived limitations. Are they an elite team? No. Are they good enough to beat anybody? Yeah, they are. That's going to be a tough one. I do like the Lions, in that matchup. But you never look past a team that's won 4 division titles in a row, and got better in the offseason. That's a tough one.
And Baker has also had a good run against the Lions, even in Detroit. So it's not been an easy out.
And their secret is they have good lines, and that's one of the reasons why the Lions are good. That makes it for a fun matchup.
And then the bye does come just about mid-season, which is always where you want to see it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, last year was week 5 for Detroit. That was way too early.
Yes, and that really was part of what hurt with all the injuries.
Definitely.
Yeah. Coming off the bye, getting able to go up against a division opponent is a good deal. Back to the primetime games, week 11, there's the Super Bowl champs once again on the road on national TV. So that'll be a big one.
Yeah, I think every road game that's non-divisional other than one is against a playoff team from last year, which is just insane.
Then an interesting back-to-back Thursday football schedule where Thanksgiving against the Green Bay Packers. You got to love that, really. That's what because how often do you see it's Thanksgiving? They don't want to put you don't want to put these types of matchups because they are so important.
I wish again that they would. So, last year's it was. I loved it. Like 2 of the last 5 years, I think they played the Bills and the Texans on Thanksgiving, and those were great.
AFC.
And it's just again. Everybody's going to be tuned into this anyways. Why burn a marquee matchup like what the Packers and Lions should be this year? Because I think the Packers are a pretty good football team.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather, again, obviously you can't play Dallas then, but the Giants maybe. I don't know. Cleveland would have been fun. Battle of Lake Erie on Thanksgiving. That's not much travel for either team. So that, as somebody who grew up,
game.
I grew up in between the two cities. Like it's a pretty easy commute. It's like a little over 2 hours. It's not difficult. That would have been great for the families involved, but that's not what the NFL does. That's why I'm working on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. And also my anniversary is week 1, which is great.
Okay. That's also, wow, great schedule for you.
Yeah.
All right.
It is.
So then the following week, Thursday again, as both the Cowboys and the Lions go back-to-back Thursday, this on Thursday Night Football, home game.
Yeah. That'll be a fun one. The Lions have had the Cowboys number, and that's also you might remember Aiden Hutchinson got hurt last year playing Dallas.
That's right.
It was friendly fire. Like, it wasn't Dallas's fault. I don't want to blame him for it, but you better believe he wants to get back at it because his last play was sacking Dak Prescott and breaking his leg in the process.
Not a good memory.
No.
Week 17, the last primetime game, as we know it right now, is going to be at Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a Christmas game. So we get Christmas there.
On Christmas. Yes. That's
road
Thursday,
game on Christmas. Woohoo!
That's right.
Yay.
And
NFL.
You know, I honestly think out of the teams in the really the teams in the NFC, and I think most people are probably going to feel the same way because nobody expected the Vikings to have a great season. And if anybody's going to say, all right, well, which team do you think might regress a little bit? I think they're the easy targets just because of the fact, again, I mean, who would have thought that they would have had that type of season? They are going to be starting, a first-time quarterback. So yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, but hey, we'll see. And then getting the Bears week 18 to end the regular season will be on the road. So back-to-back road games to end.
Division road games to end. Chicago being outdoors. Detroit's a dome team that should be weather.
Oh, yes, Field. Good point.
So that's I will say this though. I do think that the Lions team is better equipped and better built to play outdoors than the Bears are, ironically enough. But we'll see about that.
I like that approach. There's the Super Bowl odds right now. Detroit, the 5th team at 10-1. And I just wonder and of course you can see that the 2 Super Bowl teams and the 2 championship teams are sitting there.
I mean, Buffalo deserves to be there. Baltimore, I think the AFC is a lot easier. It's more top heavy. So you got the 3 AFC teams there. Like, who else in the AFC is going to challenge that? I don't think so. So I understand that the Lions being the second in the NFC makes sense for them. I think they were the second best team, and Washington did beat them last year. They deserve to be on that picture too. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think the only thing though is I wonder. I don't know if this is the case, but if the Lions had maintained their coaching staff, okay, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, I would actually feel slighted here if I was the Lions. Not they don't give a crap, but Lions fans.
No, they don't.
Lions fans, I would feel slighted because again, they were the best team in football for a good bit last year until the injuries came. So I would be like, what are we doing 5th? But losing the 2 coaches, maybe that's why they're 5th.
Yeah, and there's not a track record of sustained success either. I mean, this team hadn't won a playoff game since 1991 before 2 years ago. So I get that. And this is also to Curry betting. The lines are set to make money for the bookies and generate action. You see 1,000 on the Lions right now. That might be that's a more appealing bet for somebody who's maybe in on the Lions than if you put them at 750. That's that you got to look at that angle too. So I would be more willing to drop a dime now on $1,000 than at 750.
Okay. Well, weren't they one of the co-favorites last year, I believe, when the season began?
I believe they were second behind the Chiefs, I want to say.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's why. And look, I also bring that up because honestly, that's where I am going to go this season. I've been just like the team. I've been ultra confident, and I've been there as far as everything that the Lions have done. You've been a big part of educating me and getting me ready for these seasons with Detroit. But I am concerned. I am concerned when you lose 2 stud coaches like that. And I don't know how you just pick it up and do it again and don't have some chinks in the armor. Now, it was very interesting that the Eagles, of course, everybody's going to point to that. That's going to be the first thing everybody's going to point to. Look what happened to the Eagles when they lost their 2 coordinators a couple years ago.
That's right.
The weird thing is that they got off to such a great start.
Yeah.
And it took until the end of the season for them to fall down. That was a little weird. Because you figure if you get off to a good start, well, it should only get better, right? So, we'll see. What do you think?
So the coaching losses are interesting because they replaced the defensive coordinator in-house with Kelvin Shepard, and that's a very popular move. Aaron Glenn actually tried to bring Shepard with him to New York, but the Lions, made sure that he didn't leave. So he was the coordinator in waiting, and had been given some responsibility. So I don't expect fall off on defense. I do expect it to be a little bit different. AG, look, I love AG, and I am thrilled for him to be the head coach of the Jets, and I think he's going to be a better head coach than Ben Johnson will. But I'm not sure that the Lions are going to miss him that way. Do
you think they're going to miss Ben Johnson more?
I do, because and it's not that Ben Johnson controlled the offense. He was certainly one of the co-architects of it, along with Dan Campbell, and Jared Goff had considerable input on it as well. Where Johnson's brilliance was in the setup and the sequencing of things. Now it drove some of us mad at sometimes some of the decisions that he made, but there was always a purpose for it. He didn't waste downs. He didn't waste plays. He was setting up a formation, the exoticness, the almost incoherence of some of the schemes made them impossible to defend. And I don't think that can be acceptably replicated. I do think that John Morton, who was with the team when that offense was formed in 2022, has come back. And I think that adding David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, who's been consulting with the Broncos, he's going to bring I think they're going to bring a different wrinkle to it. The biggest question will be, how does Jared Goff handle everything? Because he and Ben Johnson had worked very well together. They understood what one another wanted to do, and helped one another do what they wanted to do. And I don't know that that's going to carry over. Look, Jared Goff's still a very good quarterback, but will he be, only 95% of what he was? And even that, then you're falling from, being a Pro Bowler to being a guy that might get edged up for a Pro Bowl. And that's, that does make a difference in the grand scheme of things. But in terms of the aggressiveness, that's Dan Campbell as much as it's Ben Johnson. So I don't think that that's going to be huge. I don't want to diminish Ben's influence, but I also think that a lot of the outside forces that are looking in are emphatically overstating how much Ben Johnson ran the offense. It wasn't his offense. It was part of his. He was one of the 3 or 4 donors to the baby that was the offense.
Okay.
So he'll be missed, no question about it. But I do think that they've done as good a job as they can in mitigating anything else, because they brought in people and kept a couple people, Mark Brunell being one of them. Scotty Montgomery, who was the assistant head coach, is back and more. They did a pretty good job of limiting the damage of what losing those coordinators can do. I think as good as they could be expected to do. And Dan Campbell remains firmly in charge of the team, and I think that that's something that won't change.
Out of those donors on offense running the team, was there anyone else other than Ben Johnson that they lost?
Tanner Engstrand a little bit.
Okay.
Tanner was very good at tweaking the minute details with Ben in the offense. But he's, they did lose JT Barrett as well. Now JT Barrett was an assistant coach He was primarily actually working with Hendon Hooker as the backup quarterback, but he was a rising star, and they didn't want to lose him when they lost him. So, like, there are losses. You know, Antoine Randall L. as a wide receivers coach was a very respected guy. He's in Chicago now. Like, that's a loss. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, in terms of, like, are we still going to see them? Are they going to run on 3rd and 7 to set up 4th and 2 again? Hell yeah, they are. That's Dan Campbell. Like, that's not changing.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things that it will definitely be a storyline, win or lose. Yes, you know how the media is going to be. Yeah. So, yeah. But that's football, is when you win, you're going to raid your staff. And that's why the teams that can do this the longest, put a nice run together for a long time, it's because you just keep hiring good coaches.
That's exactly right. You got to learn how to hire good people. And that's, you know, the Ravens have been a great example of that. The Eagles have been a great example of that. And the teams that are like one-hit wonders and run away, they probably didn't do that very well.
No,
you know, you see teams get pillaged, and you know, I think of the Gruden Super Bowl team in Tampa Bay. Like, all the assistants went away, and so did the team. Like, and that happens. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it finally took its toll on Belichick and the Patriots. I mean, they just get. I mean, their guys just kept getting just.
Yeah, too many of them came to Detroit, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true, and most of them didn't work out, except for the one that's back in New England. So, and that's why he's back in New England, because he's like one of the rare guys that actually had a successful run on his own and was able to coach and beat Belichick with his own team, which is he was rare.
Vrabel was smart enough to understand that he also comes from the Andy Reid, like he played under Andy Reid for a while too, and I think that he put those two hands together very nice. He's a great coach. I still wish the Lions would have hired him instead of Matt Patricia, but that was a show from 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, it all worked out. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the draft and free agency. I just want to remind everybody that for the rest of the week here, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow with Kevin Knight from the Falcoholic. Also, Charles Goldman is going to be with us, A to Z Sports NFL, to join us talking about the Chiefs, Houston Texans with Cole Thompson, Texans Wear, and Adam Patrick talking about the Vikings and the Viking age at Fansided. What are you whispering there while I'm trying to do this, Jeff?
Both Charles and Cole are very good personal friends of mine.
Oh, so great! I didn't even know that.
I'm doing it. Yeah, I actually am I'm the first person that ever hired Cole. So he's a great guy. Love him.
Cole's like that doll that you just and you just let him go.
Yeah, and Charles and I go way back. We've been very good friends for a long time. So I'm happy to hear them.
Well, see, we're doing something right here.
That's right.
We're bringing in guys that are all associated with each other because they all do a great job, and we appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and first let's just talk about free agency because it was pretty quiet as far as free agency this offseason. Was this the plan, financially speaking? Was this exactly what you thought of? Because really, there was one deal, that was an impact, and it was really just replacing Carlton Davis with DJ Reed.
That's exactly right. And that's because the Lions have a lot of internal people mouths to feed and pay. And that's what they're doing. They're not bringing in people from the outside to drive wedges between themselves and players who have been here and are one of the reasons why everybody's making money, and to keep them from making money. Teams screw that up all the time by bringing in outside guys and paying them more than what they wanted to pay the guys. And that just, it's a massive can of worms that the Lions have very smartly avoided. They knew they didn't have a lot to do in terms of free agency. And they basically swapped Reed for Davis and saved about $6 million a year doing so. And I would say that Reed and Davis are certainly comparable level talents. So I think that's a fairly good swap for the Lions. So Carlton Davis was great in his year in Detroit. He will be missed. I think his leadership presence was something that I'm not sure that Reed. This is out of ignorance. I don't know if DJ Reed is that kind of guy or not. But that's that's something that will be missed. But for the price, like on the field, I don't think much is really going to change there. So that's your defensive starter change. The only one, by the way. That's it.
I mean, because I guess the interesting thing is that I guess Davis has always been considered like a number one corner, whereas DJ Reed has kind of been considered a number two corner. That's really the only thing. Not that I think their talents are that different.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think that Davis is probably a middle of the pack number one, and Reed was probably a high level, like top 5 number 2. Can they switch that place? Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. And that's, again, no disrespect to Davis, but I think that Reed can be just as good as he was.
And maybe he'll stay healthy.
That'd be great.
That would be nice. He usually has. So
that was one thing Davis did not. Davis had some health issues. To his credit, he played through a broken jaw. So I mean, that's a fluke injury. That's like Aiden Hutchinson's broken leg. He snapped it on Ali McMillan. Like friendly fire injuries, weird injuries. Let's just hope all that's gone. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, I know. Every year, it's always the same thing. When you have, if you have like teams in baseball and hockey and basketball and football and NFL, and college, it's gonna happen to like at least half of your teams during that season of theirs. It's so irritating. I've been doing this so long that it is common denominator many times, because especially the NFL nowadays, there's so much parity, there's so much ability for a team to be a talent-wise, roster-wise, to take that next step if they're healthy. And sure, not every team is capable of winning a Super Bowl, but it just shows you, though, too, I think there's a lot of luck involved, because these teams that just keep going back, like whether it's the Chiefs, things of that nature. Patrick Mahomes, he's been able to stay healthy his whole career for the most part. And they've been relatively healthy as well as a team. They don't lose their star players. And that's, you have to have luck. You just have to. So
yeah, absolutely. And
Lions need some of that.
That did not come last year.
No. And that's the thing that really is the disappointing thing as a fan outside of Detroit, is that, you root for these teams. You root for the teams that have struggled as long as they have as a franchise, and they've done it right. And they've worked their asses off, and then they finally get there, and they're finally in a position, and then they have to have that type of a season where all of the injuries just destroy their season. And it's I used the word already. I won't use it again. So, but that's what it does. Okay.
Nope.
Just want to remind everybody, I'm having this interview with Jeff because he's going to make it real easy for me to write my Detroit Lions report for the Ratledge review guide. This is last year's. So I'll be writing 10 teams in here, including the Detroit Lions. And so that's why I'm doing this.
I got that on the coffee table right over there.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
Great stuff.
Yes. And of course, don't forget, if you still want to get the draft guide, you can get the PDF version. We'll have a link in the description of the video over at Ratledge.com. Okay, now let's get into the draft. Oh, well, as far as the other players, give me the one guy between Lopez, Maddox, Stewart, Yasin, and Yeboah. Who's the guy that you think is going to be the most impactful?
Lopez is probably going to play the most, although Maddox is going to be a safety in Detroit. He will be the number, in pencil anyways, the number 3 safety, which is sort of a hybrid nickel and free safety role. So he's got a chance to be impactful in that regard. Stewart's special teams. He effectively is a 1-for-1 swap with Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who the Lions prayed to God they never had to play on defense, but loved him on special teams as an undersized speed demon linebacker. So that's his role. Lopez at nose tackle, I think, has a chance to be something because the Broderick Martin experiment just hasn't worked in Detroit. So they needed a number 1A nose tackle because DJ Reader, look, I thought he was a great player for most of the season. He got tired at the end, and it absolutely showed in the Washington game. He had his worst game of the year, one of the worst games I've ever seen him play because he was on the field all game. So Lopez coming in, he's a solid player. And I think that he's going to have a chance to play some and solidify the middle of the defense. One of the things that the Lions do and relied on Reeder to do was to keep Alec Anzalone and Jack Campbell clean.
Okay.
And he did a pretty good job of that, but it got tougher as the season went on because the snaps just kept piling up because the depth just wasn't there. So I think he's a savvy little signing that I think has gone under the radar, especially with Lions fans, actually. Like, nobody watches the Cardinals outside of Arizona. They just don't. So he's sort of an unknown commodity, but like dude's a good player, and probably deserved a little bit more credit than what he got in Arizona.
And on the flip side, besides the Davis Reed swap, was there a player that kind of stuck out as far as, well, yeah, we're going to kind of miss him too? Would it be Zeitler?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You're starting right guard. He was really, really good. And he is the only offensive starter that needs to be replaced off of a team that's, been on an offensive tear. He was one and done in Detroit. They definitely wanted to keep him. Tennessee made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Hard to fault a guy for that. I would have liked at his stage in his career at 34 years old that maybe he'd want to win one.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that Detroit is closer than Tennessee to winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But he had his reasons for doing it. So yeah, that's really honestly the only question mark on offense is who fills in at right guard and does the performance drop at the guard position? Because literally everything else is the same. And it's, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's very much the Lions offense.
Well, let's go ahead then and start with the guards as far as the draft. So they get Ratledge in round 2, and then they come back and get Frazier in round 5, a couple of SEC guards. And there are the 2 picks out of the 7 that Detroit made. Both Georgia kids are my favorite picks, Ratledge and Jackson. But these because they're typical Dan Campbell guys. These are the guys that just are what the Lions try to do, and this is what reflects off the coach, and that's why I like Ratledge. And I was a little bit surprised that he was a 2nd-round guy. I didn't think going into the scouting process he was going to be. I thought he was going to be one of those 4th-round guys that was going to show you that he was really better than anybody thought. But he got the respect, and deservedly so.
He did. He tested incredibly well for a guy his size. And I will say, I'm kind of with you on it. I thought he was a 3rd-round guy. I didn't think that – now, his range and run blocking, and I actually just recently rewatched the Clemson game because I'm doing advanced work for next year's draft, and I was watching a lot of the Clemson because the entire Clemson defense is going to get drafted next year. And, he had a couple of blocks holy crap, dude. You're 25 yards down the field planting a safety, engaging him with balance. That's Dan Campbell for sure.
That's right.
I do worry he's a little tall for an interior guy and plays tall. But he's certainly capable of being a good NFL starter and a good one right away. So he's got the leg up at being the starting right guard. And, he's certainly got the experience for doing it. Now in rookie minicamp, he did cross train at center. But that's sort of just because they don't really have a backup center long-term for sure. And perhaps short-term, we'll see, depending on what happens with Graham Glasgow. So he's fun. And then Miles Frazier, coming out of LSU, get him a couple of rounds later. Solid player. The thing that I like about Miles Frazier is, and he talked about this when we talked to him a couple weeks ago at the rookie minicamp, 4 guys on that LSU line got drafted. He understands what it's like to be part of a group that has a lot of responsibility on it and means a lot and plays together. And that's very much what the Lions are on their offensive line under line coach Hank Fraley, who is one of the best, if not the best in the business. And Hank's a master developer. He's got 2 very fun toys to work with. Christian Mahogany from last year, 6th-round pick, will be a starter at one of the guard spots this year. Looked fantastic in his late season audition. He started in the playoff game, looked pretty good. So there shouldn't be shouldn't be much of a drop off from Kevin Zeitler, and that's no disrespect to Zeitler at all because I love the guy. But the Lions have the potential to not fall off there, and that's the hope.
And do you think that if everything goes as planned, that Mahogany and Ratledge will start week 1?
It sure seems that way. Look, Graham Glasgow can back up all 3 positions very effectively. He's still not super expensive for that, and he's another guy. His play from the beginning of 2024 to the end of 2024, like, oh my God, what the hell happened to this guy? Like he was actually Pro Football Focus's worst graded offensive lineman, regardless of position, over the last 8 weeks of the season. So that tells you that they needed something help. Now, if they drafted Ratledge and Frazier and it pushes Glasgow back to being good again, I'm good with that.
Sure.
That's the story I want to write. Like that's cool.
Well, at the very least, even if he, like you said, he gets off to a great start, wins the job, you would think that they're going to spell him a lot more. Right. So he is fresher at the end of the season.
Yeah. And he is the best backup center on the team. And whenever Frank Ragnow has gone out, All-Pro Frank Ragnow, got to throw that in. When he has gone out, Glasgow has moved into the center and has played acceptably, even better than acceptably in that role. So like that's a nice little problem to have. When you're worried about which good offensive lineman will be the odd man out, instead of, oh my God, which guy who was on a CFL practice squad last year is going to start for us this year. And there are a couple teams that are like that. You're going to get to one of them later this week. Cole, okay. I'm fascinated to hear Cole Thompson talk about the Texans' offensive line because
he can be,
every single person we're talking about would be the best guard in Houston this year.
Wow. Okay. And that will be an interesting conversation, especially since they're supposed to be the hands down easy choice to win the AFC South this year.
They probably should be, but still,
hey, it's the NFL.
They have their flaws.
Yeah. Okay. So Giovanni, I know he was a project.
Yeah.
Is and that we're still in project mode. You believe that he's still, it's still too early for him, right?
The hope is that he can win the number 3 tackle position on his own merit this year. I mean, and this is like, he literally was such a project playing Canadian college football. He literally did not know that he could move his left foot first off the snap. Like they had to teach him that.
Yeah.
That's how massive. Now, yes, he's a massive project. When we got a first look at him in pads last year, like all of us in the media were like, okay, we get it. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Take your time with this guy because physically, good Lord, he is a more athletic Jordan Mailata. In terms of potential. Will he ever get to that level? God, I hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's one of those deals, especially on the offensive line. You really want to see those things come through, especially at a 4th-round pick. Okay, let's stay on offense and talk about the 2 wide receivers that were drafted, beginning with Tesla from Arkansas. And of course, later on, they go ahead and get Lovett from Georgia. But this is one of those kids that really you didn't even know who the hell he was when the season began last season, based on where he came from. And now he's a 3rd-round draft pick.
Yeah, so he was a pretty good player at Hillsdale, which is a D2 school here in Michigan. Isaac Tisla, by the way, is a local for me. He's from Hudsonville, Michigan, which is a suburb of Grand Rapids. I actually covered him in high school.
That's cool.
The high school that he went to, Unity Christian High School, is in the same conference that my kids play in, or my son played in, my daughter plays in now. They're a little bit of a rival. He's a phenomenal athlete. Just ridiculous. Won a state title in Michigan as a triple option wing T quarterback.
Okay.
His dad was a wide receiver at Hillsdale, so he went there. Small D2 school. he transferred to Arkansas, spent 2 years there. Arkansas had no clue what to do with a 6'4" kid who was still learning how to play wide receiver. They stuck him in the slot. They didn't have a very good offensive scheme. They didn't have great quarterback play. So his stats were very underwhelming. I'm not sure he caught 30 passes either year at Arkansas. But he proved at the Senior Bowl that he could reliably get open and catch absolutely everything and anything thrown anywhere near him. One of the best things that I can say about him is he goes and attacks the ball away from his body like an all-pro wide receiver already. There are certainly things that he has to work on, but you get the excitement and why the Lions were interested in him and why the Bills and Saints were going to draft him very shortly thereafter had the Lions not done it. He's raw-ish, but he's a bright kid. He's going to learn very quickly. He is understudying this year with Tim Patrick, who's 32, oft injured, 1-year contract. This is a succession plan.
Okay.
Whether that succession happens in 2026 or week 4 of 2025 is sort of up to Tesla. And
okay.
I would not bet against him on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you bring those measurables, the size, the speed, and all that kind of stuff.
And I've seen him. He's a beach volleyball player on the side.
Right.
Like if you know anything about beach volleyball, which was a sport that I played religiously for many years, if you can explode out of the sand, like that translates so well. Your body control in the air has to be tip top as a beach volleyball player. He's got that. And that's going to help him as a wide receiver quite a bit. So he's got to learn some footwork things on the route running. He's got to vary his speeds a little bit. Like there's certainly nuances to the position that he's got to learn, but the blocking is there. The athleticism is there. The will is there. He is a definite grit fit. He showed up to his private workout with the Lions wearing a Lions jersey from when he was a kid. Like, how cool is that? That's nice. It's a really cool story. By the way, he's also the guy who Amon-Ra St. Brown got famous last year for doing the celebration where he stood on his head. Tesla actually did that first when he was at Arkansas, and one of the few times that they threw him the ball, he scored. And he's known for his touchdown celebrations too, so he's got a little bit of flair to him. So
a lot of nice little local ties here in the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I am predisposed to liking him. I got to put that out there right away.
Why not?
But I like him anyways.
Even Ronnie Bell, who they picked up, coming from Michigan, and I remember when Ronnie Bell.
He deserves more credit, and I tend to honestly forget that he's on the team sometimes. He's got a chance to score a role this year that he kind of got lost in the shuffle so far. And I like he's taking the place of every year, and Lions fans who are watching now know this very well. Every year there's a street free agent wide receiver.
All right.
Whether it's been Tom Kennedy, it's been Caden Davis, it's been Andrew Peacock. Like there's always one who like the fans just latch onto, and like he winds up being like the fan favorite and leads the team in receptions in the preseason, and then gets cut and winds up starring in the UFL or winding up on the Panthers practice squad or something. That seems to be his role this year, but I hope that he can do more because I liked him coming out of college. I thought he was like a 4th or 5th round pick, and it hasn't worked for him. But he's somebody that I should probably pay more attention to in my coverage of the team. That he's on this, and there's a chance for him to stick around.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not he's ever fully really recovered in a way from the ACL injury. Because I remember in that first game of that season, the 2021 season, as a Michigan fan, he was going to be a big deal for that team.
Oh, yeah.
And he returns that kick for a touchdown, I believe it was. It's like, here he goes. It could be a Heisman season. And then he gets hurt. And then boom. And then he's never been back to that since then.
No, he hasn't.
7th round draft pick, like you said, instead of 3rd or 4th. And then just never really latched on with the Niners, never really found his niche, but he's still only 25 years old. So you never know.
Crazy. Feels like he's been around forever.
Yeah, it does feel like he's been around for at least 5 years, and he hasn't. So maybe he just needs a chance. And look, there's a shot here in this Lions room. There's no question. And another guy he's going to compete with is Dominic Lovett, who was taken in the 7th round. So what did you think about that pick?
He is a special teams pick, and
Okay.
he kind of knows that too. He sort of intimated at that when we got our media time with him after the rookie minicamp. He is going to compete for the return jobs. He knows he has to improve his versatility as a receiver. Now, I will say this. He might be as fast as Jameson Williams in terms of getting from a dead stop to top speed. And his top speed is pretty darn impressive. He's got to figure out, like, Georgia used him a lot on like little bubble screens and, quick throws and try to do something in space, almost as like an extension of a running back at times. And I wonder if that role is there for him in Detroit, because they already have Khalif Raymond there. And Leaf is a team captain. Like, he's beloved, and he is that undersized speed outside guy. So it's going to be tough for Lovett to make this team. I think he's a stash. Like, if he's going to make it, it's going to be on special teams. Or if Raymond or somebody else gets hurt above him, that's probably his only shot to get on the roster, honestly.
And is that also, speaking of special teams, I mean, we talked about last year's 4th round pick, Vaki.
Special teams.
Yeah.
He's ostensibly on the roster as a running back. He's special teams.
Yeah.
He was general manager of Brad Holmes. He was last year's gift to special teams coordinator Dave Phipp in the draft, and it's pretty clear from the running back pecking order last year. Like, he's not close to being number 3. Craig Reynolds is clearly the number 3 running back. If you're going to be a number 4 running back, you better be awesome on special teams, and that's Sione Vaki. He was as advertised, earned the PFWA All Rookie Special Teams Player designation. He certainly merited that.
Speaking of the receivers, Jameson Williams is. I mean, can you count on him?
Yes.
Okay.
He grew up a lot last year, both in terms of his development in his game and in terms of being a professional. And I think he takes it more seriously while still being playful. And that's exactly the way you want him to be. Like, you don't want him to lose JMO, but at the same time, you wanted him to lose a little bit of the JMO. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think he did a pretty good job of that. He's going to be fun. He's got arrows way up on him.
Okay. So everything that happened to him late last season, those distractions, don't worry about that. You're saying
he's good. Yeah, he's good. There was a weird thing with the Detroit police that actually wasn't his fault at all. He was sort of I don't know. It worked out in his advantage that he was a Lion, but like he's good. He's got his latest Instagram pic. He showed, like, he opened his refrigerator, like, meat drawer, and it was full of Capri Suns. Like, you gotta love this guy.
What was it full of?
Capri Suns, like the juice packs.
Okay.
He's all about it. He's been interesting to cover. A lot less frustrating lately, and that's a very good thing. So,
according to you, the way you sound, he should be ready to take that next step this year.
I'm a big believer in JMO. Absolutely.
Okay. And by the way, before we move over to the defensive guys, Jackson Meeks, does he have the best chance out of the UDFAs on offense? Because we know he had a big year last year at Syracuse with Kyle McCord there. I guess he didn't test as well as
he did not. He did not test well, and that actually showed in the rookie minicamp. He's not fast. he's not even like not fast. Like, he's really not fast. He moves like a tight end. And I'm kind of surprised that he actually doesn't play tight end. Like, I don't remember. Like, he was at Georgia, I believe, before he went to Syracuse.
Yep.
It's weird that Syracuse had Aronde Gadsden and moved him from tight end to wide receiver, and Meeks didn't do the opposite. But no, I'm not the Syracuse coach. So he's
he's
got a
15
chance.
pounds on him, 20 pounds.
Yeah, I do have to shout out my guy Anthony Tyus, the third from Ohio University. Go Bobcats, proud alum. We don't get many in the NFL. I got to hype him up. He's got a shot. He is the number 5 running back. That's not a roster position, but he's certainly got a shot to stick on the practice squad. And if anything happens to Craig Reynolds and or Sione Vaki, he can step up into that role. He's also not fast, but he's a very good receiver and good pass protector. He started at Northwestern before he transferred and spent his final year in Athens. Helped us win our MAC title in Ford Field. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game, including 150 yards of rushing, leaping over a Miami defender along the way. We hate Miami, so that was a very great game. And I'm forever thankful. I'm very grateful that I got a chance to talk to Tyus after rookie minicamp and thanked him for that on behalf of all Ohio Bobcat fans. So all for the Bobcats out there, root for Anthony Tyus. He's a great dude.
Yeah, I mean, they were very fortunate when Solich left. You figured, well, things weren't going to be that good anymore. And then boom, they actually got better. And now he's gone. And it's one of those things where, like we just talked about with the coaches, you know, the head coaches are even harder to replace. Sooner or later, when you keep having success with these head coaches, sooner or later, you don't get that lucky. So
that's right.
You never know. So, okay, let's go to defense. And on the defensive side, 3 picks, starting with Tylik Williams from Ohio State, and defensive line, not much of a surprise considering the injuries and what happened to them late last season. So what do you think about this pick? What did you think about the pick overall when they made it?
I loved it. He was a top 20 player for me. I believe he was the 20th player on my board. He is a great player. And one of the things that came out very quickly when the Lions started talking about him, whether it was Brad Holmes or Ray Agnew, the assistant GM, when they talked about Tylik, is that they both saw him as more than just a nose tackle, that Ohio State used him as a nose, as a 0 or a 1, but he can certainly be more than that, and that's going to be his role. So look, Aleem McNeil is not going to be ready for the start of the season.
Okay.
So he's probably out until the bye is week 8. I doubt we see him before the bye. From when he tore his ACL, it was in late November, early December, I want to say.
Okay.
So he is very physically similar to Aleem McNeil. I think Aleem is a touch quicker. I think Tylik is maybe a touch stronger, but the two of them can play together in time on the interior and be quite a dynamic duo. But you know, at the beginning of the season, Tylik is probably going to take over Aleem's role as the rush nose tackle. He didn't get many sacks at Ohio State, but go back to his freshman year when he was playing, I think it was 298 pounds. He did get 5 sacks on a very loaded Buckeye defense. So he does have some ability there. He is a guy that I love the fact that he's aggressive, but just like initial violence. And the other thing that I love about him, and I put this in my scouting report, he strafes in the run game without getting blocked for a guy his size better than anybody I've seen. He can just flow along and not get taken out of a play in run. Like, you know, from being in the A gap, he can make a play in the C gap or outside the C gap without like it's uncanny. And they needed that because look at the guys that are on there. Levi Onwuzurike, 1-year deal. He might be gone.
It's just amazing that kid actually had the season last season. He had.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
And earned his way back into Detroit. That he's a fantastic. He had spinal fusion surgery and came back. That's insane to me. And he tells a story great. Like he's incredibly grateful. But you probably want to have a better backup plan than that long term. Nothing against Levi, but. You know, DJ Reader entering the last year of his contract. He's sort of at the end. Josh Paschal, last year of his contract, hasn't really worked out super well. You know, John Kaminsky, who was sort of in one of the roles there, he's gone. Like they desperately needed somebody in there, and Tylik certainly fits the bill. I am very happy that I I liked him a lot, and that the Lions did as well, because I saw the fit immediately, and I'm glad that they did.
Yeah.
Too.
Makes a lot of sense. And then in round 6, Hassanein from Boise State, really their top pass rusher over the last couple of seasons. And again, don't forget, if you're a college football fan, watching Boise State in the playoffs last year, and he was a big part of that for Boise State.
Good player. Interesting player. He's the first Egyptian American. Now, he is an American citizen. He was born in California, went to high school in California after being a CrossFitter in Egypt. Like, he's got just this crazy backstory.
Okay.
He somehow, and I don't know how this happened, and they haven't let it out yet, he is part of the International Pathways program, even though he was born in America as an American citizen, graduated from an American high school, played high school football in America, played college football in America. Like, all of those things are supposed to be disqualifiers, and he still got it. I don't know how the hell that happened, but we're grateful because it's an extra roster spot.
Okay.
So yeah, he is a vivacious personality. That's very clear already. He's probably not going to play a lot as a rookie, but anything that he can give, look, this is on-the-job training for him. He's only been playing football for, I think it's 5 years. He's got a lot to learn. He's very eager to learn it. He is he said he would die for his coaches, and I believe him. like
sounds like a Dan Campbell guy already.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
He certainly fits the grit, as we like to say in Detroit. So he's again probably not much of a contributor as a rookie, other than as a power to speed pass rush specialist as a rookie. That's sort of where he's at. Last year they had Mekhi Wingo in that role. Wingo is injured. He's probably not going to be back for the beginning of the season either.
Okay.
So he can fill that role as the 6th, 7th defensive lineman on an active game day, and hopefully he does something with it.
The edge. Well, let's start with Hutchinson. What's his timetable?
He's good. He can play today if they had to. So
great.
He's ready to rock and roll.
Then are they done? Do you think they're going to add a veteran?
So everything that I gathered from being over at the team facilities in the last couple of weeks is that they're good with what they've got, but like if something better presents itself, they're not going to say no. Whether it's Zadarius Smith, who finished the year capably last season, he's still out there. Oh, by the way, he still lives in Detroit. He's very active. Like, he's been seen at Pistons and Tigers games. Like, he's not gone anywhere. You haven't really heard about him looking to be signed anywhere, or like, he is a guy who would be like, why am I not signed yet? That's sort of his personality, and there's been none of that from Zadarius. So he's sort of like the wild card in waiting. But again, I think they'd be happy and be satisfied going in with what they've got. But if Zadarius shows up in late June and says, hey, I want to play, they're not going to tell him no.
No, it's looking that kind of marriage there looks pretty
and
connected.
some of that's related because Marcus Davenport is a starter and they love him, but he gets hurt literally all the time.
Yep.
He played one game, missed a game, and then got hurt. Tore his biceps or triceps, one or the other. Either one doesn't sound pleasant to me. And he's back now. But this is a guy who misses, double-digit games just about every year. It's not reliable. Josh Paschal, by the way, misses a lot of games, has missed a lot of different injuries over time, including cancer. It's tough to count on his durability as well. And they did lose John Kaminsky, who, didn't play at all last season because he got hurt in training camp. But, I would not mind them bringing in, whether it's Zadarius Smith or if there's another veteran that's out there. And I don't have the free agent list in front of me, but like if there's somebody out there that makes sense, who fits what they want personality wise, I think that would be a good fit. I would certainly encourage that. At least bring in competition for training camp and see what they got. See what you've got. Can Hassanein knock this guy off? kind of like that. I'm a big believer in the old Pete Carroll style of every job is up for grabs every day in practice. And I think Dan Campbell believes in that too. And I think, if you get better competition in practices and in camp, that's going to make your team that much better.
Are you surprised that there isn't another, like they didn't attack another edge rusher this offseason?
I am a little bit. I'm surprised that they didn't get one earlier in the draft. Now, that's nothing against the guys that they drafted in those spots. But yeah, I thought that because, again, long term, you look at that, again, Passel, 1-year deal. Onwuzurike, who plays more outside now than he does inside, 1-year deal. Davenport, 1-year deal. Like, they're going to have to address it at some point. It made sense to get a guy in earlier this year than what they did with Hassanein, but there's only so many draft picks you can have. They traded 2 of them to get to Slaw, so ties your hands a little bit. Yeah,
well,
they traded the year before. They traded the 3rd round pick in 2025 in 2024 to get Giovanni Manu in the 4th round. So and now they don't have any 3rds next year. And that's actually one, if you're looking for a downside from the trade up like that, they don't really have that ability to go get a guy like Zadarius Smith in the middle of the season this year like they did last year. They've traded that draft capital away already. So that if you're looking to criticize Brad Holmes for something there, he's tied the hands of what they can do in the season because they have traded away both of their 3rd round picks next year. And I want to say they have 2 extra 6, but they traded away a 5th or something. One of the day 3 picks, they don't have it's I can't keep track of all that stuff, but
that's why I feel that they have to have a plan. Like they have to know that we're going to sign this guy.
Yeah. Let's just say
happen just now.
The Lions beat may or may not have already pre-written Zadarius Smith signing in Detroit, and we're all just sort of waiting to hit publish.
Pretty much. That's it. Just makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Sort of like what we're saying with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. It just makes too much sense. And
would agree with that.
Yeah. So we'll probably see that. Okay. One more, and that is Dan Jackson. As I said at the open,
Dan.
Yeah, one of my favorite picks in the draft for the Lions because, this guy is just one of those really hard-nosed, tough DBs that you love to see back there, especially when you can get him in round 7. And you understand why he's in round 7. That's the type of guy he is. He's not going to come with all those measurables, but what he comes with is that Dan Campbell fire, and that's what you want to see. I think this guy's an NFL player. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind.
Everything done at maximum effort and speed and violence level. That's Dan Jackson playing safety.
SEC too.
Yes. You probably don't want him in man coverage against anybody in the NFL, but that's not what the Lions are going to look. He is ostensibly the replacement for Ifeatu Melifonwu in the defense. You don't want Ifeatu Melifonwu covering anybody one-on-one in man coverage either. Miami's going to find that out the hard way, I'm afraid. It's just not what he does. Dan Jackson going forward and going on special teams is great. And that's what his role is going to be. He's going to be the attack dog safety sub package. He's going to play on every special teams unit. And like Vaki was last year, he is this year's gift to special teams coordinator Dave Phipp in the draft.
4th round last year, 7th round this year. So
but
that's okay.
A little bit better value there. Yeah, I
Jackson's
like Dan
player.
Jackson. And Dan's not lost in coverage. He's just not super reactive or instinctive. And again, much better going forward than going sideways or backwards, which is true of a lot of us these days.
Yeah, right. Okay, so interesting that, and again, this just shows you the development of the roster, that the UDFAs, there's really not one guy that just stands out.
So I'll give you one who should compete, and that's Ian Kennelly from Grand Valley State.
Grand Valley State. Okay.
Yes, which is local for me as well.
Yes.
It's So Isaac Tesla grew up in Hudsonville. It is in the next town over in Allendale. They are a D2 powerhouse. We have a couple of them here in the West Michigan area. Ferris State won the national title last year. Grand Valley is their big rival. GVSU, Kennelly is sort of the opposite of Jackson. He is a ridiculous athlete. He's big. He's rangy. He's a ball-oriented coverage safety. And he looked very good in that capacity at Grand Valley. Well, I saw him play in person many times. And in the rookie minicamp, he really stood out as the best safety there. And there were a couple of, like Eric Hallett, who's competing for that spot as a veteran. He Kennelly showed so much range and acumen in coverage. It's going to be tough for him not to make this team. If there is an UDFA at all who makes the team, my bet would be that it's Ian Kennelly. Okay.
And really, it's not like there's any Meeks is only because he's got the production from last year. So there's just not that. It's not like you see a whole lot of like names out there. But that's okay. Like I said,
Mason Miller should at least stick on the practice squad. He was North Dakota State's right tackle with Gray Zabel playing the left side. Lions are moving him into guard, and he's sort of a project there. But he's a guy that I would be surprised if he's not on the practice squad. Put it that way.
All right. Yeah. That's a very successful FCS program. So that's a nice one. Okay. So let's close out by giving a report card grade, whatever you want to say here. How did you think the Lions did this offseason? And you have to include the coaches, including, of course, not just losing them, but how they replaced them. So what kind of an offseason grade do you give the Detroit Lions?
In terms of like replacing I think the replacing the coordinators was probably the biggest task that they had to do. I think they did as good of a job as they could in doing that. John Morton, certainly not the sexiest name. There were a lot of fans that wanted a lot, bigger name. He did have one unfortunate year with the Jets. 2017 New York Jets. I don't mean to bring that up for you because I know
they're all the same.
I would just say, try to name somebody from that offense who didn't suck. And like there's only so much you can do with the roster that team had. Like,
yeah, sure.
I'm not going to hold that against him. So I like one of the things that I really like about the players that they brought in, whether it's Reed in free agency and Lopez fits it too, or draft, they understand who are Lions and who aren't Lions. And they stayed very true to character. And I like that. It's working. Don't deviate from that. So from that standpoint, I really like the offseason and bringing David Shaw in. I think he fits that mold as well. And I'm candid about this. I've said it a few times on different things. I did not think he was a great head coach at Stanford, but he's not a head coach here. He's an offensive mastermind, and that's exactly what they need from him to help, tweak the passing game, keep it where it's at, maybe modify it a little bit. So it's because as happens in the NFL, teams get film on you and they learn and they adapt to it. And now they have to change that a little bit. And I will say that that's one thing that I'm not sure that Ben Johnson had mastered that yet. Like, he kept getting wilder and wilder with the creative side to alter that. Right. And I think that there were some like more conservative tweaks that they could do with it. Maybe they're simplifying their blocking scheme just a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe not having such wild route combos at times that I think that Shaw and Morton will see that might make the Lions offense stay just as elite as it has been. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of a fan take on it, but I think that, no worse than an A- for this team this offseason. Look, 20 starters are back from a team that went 15-2 that had, again, an entire starting defense on injured reserve for most of the season.
Yes.
It's not like this team needed a lot. They stayed true to who they are, and they understood that. They didn't panic, and I like that.
Yeah, and again, as you said at the open, they basically just they spend a lot of their time and money bringing a lot of their own back, and that's good when you have a good team.
That's right.
By the way, taking a look at that Jet team in 2017, Josh McCown was the quarterback, And even Bryce Petty made 3 starts.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yes.
Sorry.
Their number 1 receiver was at the time named Robbie Anderson.
Okay.
Ever since he changed his name to Robbie Chosen, he is no longer. I don't even know where he is now.
I don't either.
Yeah.
He wasn't terrible.
No, he wasn't then.
He could play.
He was. That was his breakout year.
Yeah.
And then their leading rusher was Bilal Powell with 772 yards rushing. So that was their offense. Not very good.
Their line wasn't good. That was post-Mangold. That was quite a bit post-Mangold, actually. Like that, yeah. Ugh. Rough time.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good. Yeah, their offensive line their offensive line actually, that was the experiment with Brandon Shell, and that did not work out.
No, it didn't.
And Brian Winters, that did not work out. And they did have a couple. Who's that? Winters?
Yeah.
And then they also had a couple of veterans that actually are good kind of backups that started for them, and Beecham and James Carpenter, with Wesley Johnson starting at center.
Oh, wow. That offense is born to lose, destined to fail.
Yeah. So that's something that is important to note whenever that guy had 1 bad year as a coordinator. Yeah, it is important to note exactly what he was dealing with there, and who would have been successful there. So give him a second chance. The Lions are a much different organization than the Jets were at that time. That's for sure. What are you working on right now, Mr. Jeff? What are you, what's up now? Are you taking some time off?
A little bit. You never get time off in this business. The draft side of me is looking towards next year already. I mean, that's the fun part. I enjoy that. I watch 1 college football game every day in the off season, take notes on it, see who catches my eye. I have a watch list. It keeps growing. I'm kind of obsessed with Clemson right at the moment, so I'm getting through those guys, but and seeing who will be Lions or Jets or whoever next year. They got some guys. For Lions, we're sorting out rating the units, figuring out like the best parts of the schedule. I am doing a couple pieces that are sort of like longer projects on film of where certain players can improve in the coming season. I'm working. There's just a lot of things in my head that need to.
Yeah, you have to
get into my fingers and under.
Yeah. I know the feeling. The creative juice is flowing, but you have to.
Like we talked about before we went on the air. Like Mother's Day to Father's Day is the one time of year where people like us get to breathe a little bit.
Sure.
I get reacquainted with my wife and my cat, and I like that very much.
Yeah.
This
is it.
I'm trying to enjoy that a little bit before throwing myself back into the complete throes of football.
It's only 2 months. That's it.
Yeah,
mid-May to mid-July, and that's what you got. And there's still camps going on. It's not like nothing's happening. This is when we don't want to hear anything. No news.
We have OTAs later this week in Detroit. So yeah.
What's that?
We have OTAs later this week in Detroit.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that's right. That's it.
Yeah.
OTAs.
By the way, the Lions are in the Hall of Fame game this year, so we get an extra preseason game, and training camp starts a week earlier because of that. So. Yeah,
see, good for work
all the time. Yeah,
you got to go back to work early.
Not so good for the kayaking time, but I'll make do.
Actually, it's one of those things where whenever you play in those nowadays, you play in those games, and
we're
80% of those guys don't even make the final roster. So
we're gonna see a crap ton of guys that you'll find their game worn jersey somewhere and be like, who?
Yeah, that is what it is. Yes. There's a lot of players that start off and many of them do not make it. And a lot of those guys are the ones that are playing in those games early, but hey, you never know. So, you just mentioned a few of them that they'll make a name for himself. And those are the games to make a name for yourself. Those undrafted free agents, especially.
Absolutely. They're given an opportunity. That's more of a chance to get more eyeballs on them. If it's not in Detroit, it's somewhere else, whether, north of the border or the UFL or, one of their NFL team practice squad somewhere. Like something can happen for that. And I love that for those guys.
Yeah, sure. Why
because
not?
Why not? Exactly.
Manu will be starting. Vaki will be starting probably. Those types of guys.
Yeah, and you know what? We have not seen Manu. He was inactive his entire rookie season. We don't get to watch them in practice other than like warm-ups and individual. So we have no clue how much he's progressing.
Okay.
That'll be a chance to see like, okay, what do we got here?
Yeah,
we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, that's again, that is what is. Oh, who are they playing?
The Chargers.
Okay. Not that it matters.
It's Antonio Gates going in. He is a Detroit guy, playing obviously going into the Chargers. And
cool.
It's great. I love the Hall of Fame. Personally, I'm from Northeast Ohio. I love going there. And, Chris Spielman is my football hero, the Lions special tournament. This was his high school football field. Like, how cool is that? He gets to watch a game on it.
Playing high school football on where the pros play. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. It's not Boston Stadium anymore, but it's still sweet.
It's not. What is it?
No, they call it something else now. I don't remember.
Okay.
I haven't been.
Have they marketed it now? Have they gone corporate?
They have, and they've built an entire village around it.
All right.
I haven't been there since 2020 was the last time I was there. So
as long as the kids like it, that's important.
Oh yeah,
give them.
It's a great place to go. Great place to go.
Give them something to learn. Have you been to a speech?
I have. I have been. When was the last one I went to? 2018, I think, was the last one. I used to go just about every year. For a long time too. One of my best friends from college, she lives within it's not an easy walk, but you can walk to the stadium from her house. So I always, spend time hanging out with her, and go and watch. And I'm trying to think who the last one I was. I think 2018 was the last one I was at, but I'll stay for the festivities this time for sure.
Oh, so you've been to quite a number of speeches then?
I would say I've been to at least 10 and probably not 20. But one of the things, every year, it's concurrent with the, it used to be the Firestone Shell Open. It's not that anymore, but they play at the golf course, which is right in South Akron, which is just by North Canton, which is where the stadium is. So it's like a great time to be in the Akron Canton area. And that's, that doesn't happen often. You don't get to say that very much. So
yeah, right.
But it's not a bad place to be at all. So it's
your favorite speech?
There's a lot of activity there. I liked Bruce Matthews, who's
Bruce
a hero
Matthews.
of mine. Yeah.
What's stuck out about Bruce Matthews?
Just the fact that so Clay Matthews the Elder was my favorite player growing up. And the connection that he made with that, and he, by the way, he belongs in there too. That was a good one. Who was that? I was sitting near Marty Schottenheimer when one of his former players got in, and I just remember watching Marty and the reaction. I don't remember who that was, but watching Marty's reaction to it was like tearful. It was so cool for me.
Was it a defensive player or offensive player?
It was an offensive player, and I can't remember.
LaDainian Tomlinson?
It might have been LT. It would have been a few years ago. It was not long after Goodell became commissioner, so it's been a while.
Oh, geez, that was a banner day for us all.
Yeah. It's been a while, but I want to see what's from his Chiefs days now that I think about it.
Oh, okay.
Shields, maybe?
Oh, Will Shields. Okay.
Yeah.
That might be a good one.
Yeah. I don't know. The speeches sort of blur, honestly. I did love Joe Thomas's. I wasn't there for Joe Thomas's. I would have loved to have been there for that one as a huge Joe Thomas fan. And I'm blessed that I've been scouting. I've been paid to scout for the NFL draft since the 2002 NFL draft. Joe Thomas is the highest graded player I've ever evaluated. And
okay.
I'm blessed that I have gotten the chance to tell him that And I am very thankful that he agreed that I was right. And I think the NFL got it right too.
Right. Well, that's good. That's great. You've done a lot of work, and that's what really helps us out here. You obviously know what you're talking about, Jeff, and that's why we appreciate you talking Detroit Lions football with us several times this season. Can't wait to talk to you when we preview training camp, the season, the preseason,
Absolutely.
whatever it is that we talk to you.
Always good to be with you.
I appreciate it, Jeff. As always, thanks for checking in with us once again. And don't forget to check with Jeff. If you haven't seen his work before, we'll have links in the description for that, of how you can follow him on X and check out his work at the Detroit Lions podcast, the Lions Wire, and much more. Don't forget, we'll be back here for the rest of the week with all those other interviews. And we'll see you again next time here on the Our Lads Football Network, ProLine TV. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.